There you are, having a conversation with somebody, and all of a sudden you realize it's turning into feedback. Do you start to squirm and get uncomfortable? You're not alone. It's not easy to receive feedback, especially critical feedback. But lucky for you, I've got you covered, and by the end of this video, you'll know the steps to receive feedback like a pro. If you want even more advice on how to give and receive feedback and other courageous leadership tips, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post new episodes each week. I've spent the last 20 years leading teams of all sizes, and I've learned a lot about effective leadership and communication, and now I'm bringing those lessons learned to you. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic, how to receive and process feedback. We all know that receiving feedback is essential to growth. It's how we get better, by hearing how we can improve. But it's not easy to hear critical feedback about our work. So how do you get better about receiving feedback? I'm going to give you the steps. And let's start with step 1. Okay, so step 1 is to resist the urge to respond immediately. Please hear me. And if you only remember one thing from this video, I want this to be the thing you remember. Resist the urge to respond immediately. It is so tempting when people start to give you critical feedback to respond with justifications or excuses or statements like, you don't understand, that's not what I meant. But you need to resist that urge. Instead, when someone is giving you feedback, just listen. Just sit and listen. You can acknowledge what they're saying, and you should acknowledge what they're saying, but don't respond right away. Just sit there and listen to what they have to say, acknowledge it, and then as it's wrapping up, thank them for coming to you with feedback. Thank them for having the courage to come to you and provide the information, and then let them know that you need to take some time and process it, that you value what they've said, and because you value it, you want to take the time to sit and process the feedback and think about what they've had to share. And then after some time to process, you'd like to circle back with them. I want you to give me a yes in the comments below if you're like me and this is an area you struggle with. Look, I know this is what I'm telling you. That doesn't mean I get it right all the time. It's hard. It's hard not to say something right away. So give me a yes in the comments below if you're like me and this is an area you need to work on, that you need to learn to just pause and listen and not respond right away. Okay, step 2. Step 2 is to take that time and process the feedback. It's important to sit alone in a quiet place and really take some time to think about what the individual has shared with you. I provide my clients with some prompts to help them process the feedback. And I encourage them to think about questions like to write down what feedback they received. What parts of the feedback do they agree with? What parts do they disagree with? And why? And even if they do disagree with all or some of the feedback, is it possible that they can see the other person's perspective, that they can see where that person is coming from and why, even if they don't completely agree with the feedback? And then I encourage them to write down what they would like to share. Are there any follow-up questions they could ask? And what would they like to share with that individual? It's important to prepare your response when you're going to circle back. So in addition to just processing through what they said and how you feel about that, it's important to draft your response and to think ahead of how you want to handle that follow-up conversation. It's just going to make you more comfortable and it will make the conversation more successful. And to help you out even more with the processing, I've included a link to the feedback processing guide that I give to my clients. I've included a link to that document in the description below the video. So you can access that completely free. It's just to help you out, and it's a nice formatted guide to help you whenever you need to process feedback. And now, step 3. And step 3 is actually circling back and having the follow-up conversation with the person who gave you feedback. It's really important to close that loop. You can't just say to the person during the initial conversation, okay, I value what you've said. I want to take some time to process, and then can we circle back? but then never circle back. And so it's important to give yourself a couple days in that processing time, 1 to 2 days, but you really don't want to wait more than a few days, more than 3 days to have that follow-up conversation with that person. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to have that. If it's somebody you see regularly, you're going to start to have that tension. It's going to be awkward. They're going to wonder if you're ever going to circle back. You're starting to feel weird that you haven't circled back. So it's really important to go ahead and within a few days, have that follow-up conversation. It will show the person that you really did value what they had to say, that you took the time to process. And it's just going to close that loop, and it'll make it a much more beneficial conversation and process. And they're going to feel more comfortable coming to you again in the future with feedback. As you get in the habit of soliciting and receiving feedback, it does get easier to process it. I'm not going to say it gets truly easy. It's still uncomfortable. I mean, that's the point, right? Is to push you out of your comfort zone and make you better. So yes, it's always going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it does get easier the more you practice and the more you receive it. Now you know how to receive feedback, but what about how to give feedback? Lucky for you, I've created a 15-page guide, and you can download that for free by clicking on the link in the description under the video. If you found this video useful and helpful and you liked this video, please make sure to hit that like button below. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe and share the video with your friends. And don't forget to check back each week for new content. Be well and be courageous.